Snautra aure mazda Hashem vahu vahishte masti Ushtaste Ushtahamai yatashai vahishtai Hashem Baname ahura mazda. To think a good thought, to speak a good word, to do a good deed is righteousness. Happiness comes to those who live with the consciousness of righteousness. And with that sentiment, ladies and gentlemen, this is Meher Amal Saad and welcome to Bahumata, a program designed to build oneness with the consciousness of righteousness in humanity. The goal is not to grow the plant but to plant the seed for each one of us to blossom with our own love, light, grace, joy and peace. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this very special journey to enlightenment. And as you do, please join me in giving a warm Zartushti welcome to our very own Zartushti neuroscientist from United Kingdom, Dr. Karishma Khoka.
Thank you all very much for joining today's Bahumata session. This session will be recorded to share widely internationally so that people understand the meanings, the inspiration from the Zoroastrian faith. It is with profound and constant love for Ahura Mazda that we aim to send out powerful united vibrations of peace and love for the good of all. Each of these sessions is put together by Mr. Meher Amal Saad-ji, who puts together the speakers and the biographies, and Mr. Yazdi Tantra, who supports the recordings and the technology. The main principles of Bahumata are very clear, and it is to conserve and share the knowledge in the Zoroastrian faith, the Zarathushti Daina, so that we can understand the prayers, principles, and practice. And as we do that, we honor those priests and knowledgeable elders who give us this knowledge and who have conserved it at great cost to themselves over the centuries. Once we build knowledge, we can then bridge communication between our elders and youth, leading to empowerment with knowledge for the good of all. Therefore, building leadership in every facet of life, whether it be our education, our business, our collaborative efforts, or our individual efforts. And thereby we build good thoughts and fellowship. Today's speakers are Ervatsai Parvez Karanjia from India, Ervatsai Vispi Karkarya from India and now in the United States of America, Farzan Bilimoria from the United Kingdom, and Sarosh Manekshaw from the US, but originally from India. The theme is Life is a Manifestation of the Accumulation from Emotional Accumulation. We focus on the Gatha verses that are as closely aligned to the theme as possible. In this case, Gatha verse 32.13 and 30.2. But our speakers will share from a wider range of resources and from their own inspiration as well. We will now hand over to Ervatsai Parvez Karanjia for a Hum Bandagi. Ervatsai Parvez, please give us and bless us with a Hum Bandagi. Thank you.
Yatha Ekasin. Yatha Auvaidyo Atha Ratush Asata Sitasha Vangyos Dasta Maningo Shautaninam Vangyos Mastai Shatrim Chai Aurai Aim Daregubio Dadakavakstarem Yatha Auvaidyo Atha Ratush Asata Sitasha Vangyos Dastam Maningo Shautaninam Vangyos Mastai Shatrim Chai Aurai Aim Dare Kubiyo Dadadavakstaraim Hashem Vahu Vahistamasti Ustavasti Usta Amai Yatasai Vahistai Asai Sriji
Yes, Dan
Pakiran.
Panapa. Each month, on the same day, the first Sunday of the month at the same time, we have our session, and these were our speakers last month. And it's interesting to note that Zen Commissariat is our newest youth ambassador who has joined the team of Bahumata. And we welcome him with great gusto. Each talk is divided into 3 parts in general, focusing on Humata, the concept from the prayer, Hukta, the lines or words from the prayer with meaning, and then Varshta, the speaker's own interpretation for good action, as they deem fit or as they have been guided to share by their seniors. Our first speaker of the day today is Ervat Parvez Karanjia. His biography is actually about 8 pages long, and we have just selected a snippet for you to understand his background. Ervat Sahib Parvez Karanjia served as a Zoroastrian priest for over 5 decades, and for the last 25 years has been blessed to serve at the Jamshedji Dadabhai Amaria Soda Waterwala Agyari in Mumbai, which is at Marine Lines. Along with his priestly duties, he also works as an astrogems consultant and spiritual educator, helping individuals and enterprises align with their cosmic and ethical principles. He's completely trained in the Zartushti Daina, with a Navar completed in 1976 and Martab in 1978. In addition, he's the master of Avasta Matravani script from the Mancherji Framji Kama Athornan Institute in Andheri. Trained under the guidance of the late Ervat Syavak Shah Dorabji Sidhwa, the Iran Shah Boywala Sahib, and has attended priesthood and mastering the Avasta Matravani, where he was also under supervision and guidance of the principal Dasturji Feroz Kotwal Sahib and also Ervat Sahib Aibara. In addition to his priestly qualifications, Ervat Sahib Parvez Karanjia has a whole host of educational qualifications in the normal education that we don't tend to sort of look at when we look at an Ervat Sahib. So let's look at it today. Ervat Sahib Parvez has a master's in economics from Bombay University. He has completed the gemology course from the National Centre for Vocational and Technical Education, MHRD, run by the Government of India. He's also a graduate of the NDA, the National Defence Academy.
What?
He has served as a commanding officer for 15 years. In addition to serving the country, serving priesthood, he has also practiced astrology, numerology, gemology, and Vastu Shastra for the past 25 years. Ervat Sahib Parvez is also a graduate from the Sri Maharshi College of Vedic Astrology, being both a Jyotish Acharya and a Ratna Acharya. He has completed his graduate in planetary gemology from the PGA Gem Identifications course in Thailand. In addition, Ervat Sahib Parvez has won many India 500 Best MSME awards for quality and excellence, and 32 Government of India awards for his excellent work and his qualifications and service. But that's not all. Together with his wife Zenobia, they have 3 children, Anahita, Hutokshi, and Ervat Sahib Arzan. Each is qualified in education and service to the community. And Ervat Sahib Arzan is the Panthaki of the Agyari in Panchkani, the Chauksi Dare Meher. We thank both Ervat Sahib and Zenobia Mai for their unending service to the Zartushti community and worldwide society. Ervat Sahib Parvez, over to you for your speech today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much. Respected host, fellow seekers, and spiritual entrepreneurs across the globe, I bring with reverence to Aura Mazda, the wise Lord, and invoke the sacred fire within each of us. May this gathering be illuminated by truth, inspired by purpose, and guided by the divine spark of passion. Life is a manifestation of culmination from emotional accumulation. This is not just a poetic phrase, it is a spiritual law. Every emotions we harbor, every intention, every emotions we harbor, every intention we nurture, every reaction we repeat accumulates, and these accumulations does not remain hidden. It culminates, it manifests, it becomes our life. Scriptural foundations. Let us turn to the Gathas, the sacred hymns of Ashok Zarathustra. Yasna R30 point 2 spark speaks of the two primal spirits, Spentamenu and Angramenu. These are not distant deities, they are inner forces. Spentamenu represents progressive, life affirming, emotional angry. Angramenus represent regressive, destructive, emotional energy. Each choice we make align us with one of these currents. Emotional accumulations brings here. Yasna 30 verse 2. Trautav Gevsais Vahisais Avainka Sucha Mananga Avarenau Vishitaya Narem Vai Tanave Paramase Yavangaho Ammai Sazadai Paudanto Paititi. Here, yet throughout these most beneficial proclamations, listen independently with clear illuminati mind of the careful selections of the two choices, man by man for his own self, before the great setting off on life's journey, being enlightened sufficiently to approve unto this teaching. Yashna Ha 32, verse 13, warns us of those who follow deceit and falsehood. It reveals that emotional allegiance to the lie leads to spiritual ruin. This verse affirms our emotions are not neutral, they are directional. They culminate in either divine alignment or spiritual destruction. Philosophical expansion. What is the emotional accumulations? It is the layered build up of our inner responses joy, resentment, hope, fear, compassion, envy. Like sediment in the riverbed, these emotions settle and shape the flow of our life. Eventually, they culminate in our relationships, our health, our enterprises, and our legacy. Emotions are the architects of destiny. Each feeling is a brick. Life is a temple we build. Leaderships and entrepreneurships. In leaderships, emotional accumulation defines culture. A leader who accumulates empathy, clarity, and courage builds a legacy of trust. A leader who accumulates insecurity, ego, and fear creates chaos. In entrepreneurships, emotional intelligence is not optional, it is foundational. I have seen MSME, micro, small, medium entrepreneurs thrive not because of capital, but because of character. When spiritual values guide business decisions, prosperity becomes purposeful. Life is not merely a sequence of events, it is a culmination of our emotional experiences. Every feelings we encounter, every thought we nurture, and every actions we take contributes to the architecture of our reality. Emotional accumulation is the silent sculptor of our destiny. Umata, Bhukta, Urasta. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. The triple part to purpose. The ancient tribe, good thoughts, good words, good deeds, is more than moral guidance. It is a blueprint for emotional refinement. Good thoughts, purity, our inner world. Good words shape our relationship and ripple outward. Good deeds anchor our intention in reality. Together, they transform emotional accumulations into purposeful manifestation. Emotional accumulations and the law of attraction. The law of attraction, it is that like attracts like emotional accumulations act as the magnetic field. Positive emotions attract growth, opportunity, and love. Negative emotions, if left unchecked, attract stagnations and suffering. By consciously curating our emotional landscape, we align with the frequencies we wish to receive. Action as a bridge to affection, passion, and compassion. Actions are the vessels throughout which emotions travel. When we act with passion, we express our deepest truth. When we act with compassion, we honor others' truth. When we act with affections, we build bonds that transcend words. Our emotional accumulation finds meaning throughout these expressions, making life an expression of love and compassion. To make life an expression of love and compassion is to live with open arms and open heart. It means responding to pain with empathy. It means celebrating joy without envy. It means choosing kindness even when it's inconvenient. Love and compassion are not emotions, they are choices that shape our legacy. Feelings don't disappear, they build reality. Feelings are not fleeting, they are formative. A moment of anger can echo for years. A spark of joy can illuminate a lifetime. Emotions that appear do not vanish. They settle into the foundation of our beliefs, habits, and worldview. Emotional accumulation is the sentiment of our soul. Emotional accumulation, solutions or pollution. Emotions can heal or harm. Solutions, when proceed, understood, and integrated, emotions become wisdom. Pollution, when suppressed, ignored, or distorted, emotions become toxins. The choice is ours to cleanse or to contaminate, letting go of negativity to embrace positivity. Letting go is not forgetting, it is forgiving. Release resentment to make room for peace. Let's go of fear to welcome courage. Surrender judgment to cultivate understanding. Positivity flows when we unlock the emotional channels burdened by negativity. Five gathas is as spiritual portals. Each gatha corresponds to cosmic principle and planetary archetype. Gatha Aunavati, divine will and truth, focus, purpose, clarity, leadership. Ustaviti Gatha, joy and enlightenment, focus, expansion, wisdom, gratitude. Spentamenu Gatha, creative spirit, focus, love, beauty, harmony. Bhokshatra Gatha, good governance, discipline, justice, legacy. Vaishtoistagatha, best righteousness, communication, discernment, devotions. Integration with Zoroastrian ethics. Warrior of Asha, courage in service of truth. Guardian of creation, stability and reverence for nature. Messenger of Master, duality, resolve throughout wisdom. Nurturer of Fravasis, emotional depth and ancestral connection. Flame of Kava Rane or Kava Renaha, radiance and divine favor. Pillar of Gatic, purity and service. Balancer of Asha, justice and cosmic equilibrium. Transformer of Dhruj, death, rebirth, and spiritual resilience. Seeker of Usta, joyful pursuit of divine knowledge. Architect of Vokshatra, structure and righteousness leadership. Visionary of Spenta mining, innovation with spiritual purpose. Mystic of Vaishtaisthi, compassion and transcendence. याच्यातले हा 32 and 30 वर्षा या क्षत्रा ग्रमो इशता अचिस्तया demane manango angeus merektaro ayya yaisha mazda zigrazata kame twa ayya matrano dutye ye ispa daresata ashaya. Whatever powers of the most wicked mind this plunder wishes to obtain for the soul, they are injures of his life, and who, O Master, in their desire, censure the message of thy holy singer, which would protect them from the violations of the righteousness. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ervat Sahib Parvez Karanja, for that very deep and very balanced approach to all the different aspects, individual, entrepreneurial, educational, working in collaboration. And so important that we understand these ideas today of all days, because 2 days ago was Mehergan, where we celebrate Mitra, the concept of covenant, promise, collaboration. And if we cannot let go of our emotional accumulation that's negative and build positivity, it is indeed very hard to internally celebrate Mehergan. So Mehergan Khojaste Baad to everybody. And we now have our next speaker, Ervat Sahib Parvez Vispi Karkaria. Ervad Vispi Karkaria is a PhD candidate in mechanical engineering at the Northwestern University, specializing in machine learning and data science. Alongside his academic and research pursuits, Ervad Vispi has been deeply engaged in Zoroastrian religious life from a very young age. As an ordained Ervad, he has conducted religious classes and delivered talks that explore the intersection of spiritual wisdom and modern knowledge. He believes strongly in the timeless relevance of Asho Zarathustra Sahib's message, especially the triad of Humata, Bhukta, and Varshta, good thoughts, good words, and good deeds, as a guiding principle in both his spiritual and his scientific endeavors. His research, which includes work on digital twins, AI ethics, and sustainability, is rooted in his values of service, transparency, and harmony with nature. Ervad Vispi has received numerous honors for his academic and leadership excellence, including the Martin Outstanding Graduate Student Award and the NAMRC Best Paper Award. He currently serves as the president of the AI at NU cluster, fostering ethical and impactful AI research. Ervad Vispi says he's honored to be part of the Bahumata Fellowship and is passionate about using his voice and the platform to inspire purposeful action grounded in prayer, reflection, and spiritual unity. As each of us reads more about the development of AI, and even now, this newest development where actual neural cells are now being developed for AI networks, who knows where the future of the guidance of Asho Zarathustra Sahib will help us develop something more and more useful for this world. Over to you, Ervat Sahib Vispi. We're honored to have you.
Thank you so much. And this is actually true. Like the AI research is moving on very fast, and we need people who are ethical and in some way spiritual to make or to use AI for the good purpose. And with that, I would like to start my today's talk, which will be ground rooted to our gathas, our spiritual knowledge, religious knowledge, and with modern knowledge as well. So the title of my talk today is going to be From Good Thoughts to Greater Purposes as well. Uh, how do we take the emotional knowledge we have, and along with that, the choices we have to make good decisions in our life and to take humankind forward? So the theme for today's talk is to for reflection of the idea of life is a manifestation of culmination from emotional accumulation. So in simpler terms, what we accumulate emotionally, whether peace or pain, clarity or confusion, builds up and manifests in our actions, relationships, and outcomes. We are not just shaped by experiences, we are shaped by how we emotionally interpret and carry them. That is the deeper wisdom at play here. And we have today's and like our Gatha's inspiration, the teachings which finds its roots in the Gathas, particularly Yasna 30.2 and 32.13. These verses introduces us with the two primal mentalities, spenta menu, which is constructive, bountiful, and good spirit, and agra menu, which is the destructive and disordered spirit. We are always reminded that life is not predetermined. It is the outcome of our own choices, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And the wise always choose the rightly, and the unwise chooses destructively. But making these choices also comes with the philosophical foundations which are grass rooted in our Zoroastrianism. Humata, Hukta, Huvarasta. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. These aren't just moral ideals, they are the emotional disciplines that we can have. They invite us to align our inner thoughts and feelings with outer actions. In this way, we live not by reaction, but by an intention. And then I'm going to touch about my personal and professional lenses through which I see all this teaching. As someone engaged in scientific research, so particularly artificial intelligence, I've come to realize that even the most technical models are deeply human. Whether we are building algorithms or building communities, it is emotional wisdom, empathy, clarity, courage that acts as the true compass. This talk is my humble attempt to blend science and spirit, showing how we, even the most rational domains, benefit from the ancient emotional truths. And with that, I would like to just talk about more about the Gathic foundations through which we are going to learn today. Let us explore the spiritual foundations through Yasna 30.2 and 32.13. I would like to thank Erod Parvez Karanjia to explain it in the talk before, so I can directly go into the meaning of it and explain my own understanding of it. First, Yasna 30.2, where I think it's about dual mentalities. This verse introduces us the concept of two primal mentalities, as I just talked, spenta menu and agra menu. These are not just external forces, these are internal realities. Every moment we are invited to choose. Do we respond with wisdom, compassion, and clarity? Or do we fall into the fear, deceit, and destruction? Zarathustra, Lord Zarathustra reminds us that this is the first spiritual freedom that we have, the freedom to choose our inner world. The wise chooses constructively, as I repeat again. And then we go on to Yasna 32.13, which is the moral impact of our decision. In this verse, the Gathas warn of the spiritual consequences of the falsehood, how deceit, lies, and immoral actions erode our soul. Lord Zarathustra is clear. Truth is not just an ideal, it is an energetic core inside us of a just and awakened life. When we choose lies, whether out of fear, convenience, or ego, we are not only harming others, but we are also corrupting our own emotional ecosystem of our own spirit. And with that, uh, I would like to talk about emotions as blueprint, which we move forward with. From the psychological lens, these teachings reflect the truth that our emotional state becomes the architectural plan of our external world. What we feel, we amplify. Confusion breeds disorder. Clarity breeds more clarity about life to make good decisions. Emotions accumulate isn't invisible, it's an active architecture. The more we allow misaligned emotions to get unchecked, the more disordered our life may become. And that brings me to the spiritual psychology of the Gathas. Lord Zarathustra's message is deeply ahead of its time. He understood that feelings are not just fleeting, they accumulate. And over time, they shape our destiny, not just through actions, but through the unseen habits of the heart. When we left unexamined, feelings like resentment, fear, or anger begin to steer our lives in quiet and powerful ways, we are doomed. But when acknowledged and aligned with Asha, the principle of truth and rightness, they become powerful forces for clarity and transformation. With this teaching and with the emotional accumulation that I have in my life, I try to inculcate each and everything into my scientific life. First is about beyond algorithms. When I see most of the researchers doing research, they are very objective in their mind. They are always focusing on making the best algorithm, getting good results, and getting the best out papers out. But what I think is that the most objective thing of AI system, they are not neutral. They are shaped by human decisions. What data we prioritize, what outcomes out of the model that we build should be optimized, and the trade offs we accept. Each of these decisions is a moral and emotional choice. If we build with care, fairness, and transparency, the results reflect that. And then the models can be used for the greater good of humankind. But if we optimize blindly for speed and profit, we risk creating systems that can harm or exclude humans. In one of my projects where I tried to reflect that was with Michelin tires. They gave us, when I was working with them, they gave me the task of just improving tire life so that they can make more profits. But intentionally, I got the concept of sustainability. The, uh, the choice that I made was to reduce waste, enhance safety of the people, and serve for the global sustainable goals. The algorithm that was built was technical, but with the motivation of ethics. It came from the place of emotional responsibility towards the environment and future generations. So, through my own teachings, it guided me to build an algorithm which is good for our earth and also for the safety of the people. And secondly, in my final year of PhD, I'm working with my advisor to build a large language model like ChatGPT to do design optimization. Before, when AI was not a big thing, if we had to design even a table or a door of a house, that would be calling for an expert to design everything. But what we think is that people should have their own knowledge. And if people don't know technicality, can they use artificial intelligence for their own good? So that People in villages in India or people who don't have access to this kind of engineers, they can just ask the AI that can I build something and they can design out of it. So this algorithm was also motivated through compassion for people. And at the end, we often treat emotions as noise in scientific processes. But in truth, emotion can be a good catalyst. It shapes our questions, fuels our purpose, and anchors our ethical boundaries. In a world driven by data, emotional clarity becomes our compass. It guides not only what we build, but who we become in the process. And for guiding us through this whole emotional process, we align with our teaching of Humata Hukta Huvarasta. We begin with thought, the seed of all the creations. But not just any thought, constructive, compassionate, and intentional thinking. Our thoughts shape our emotional tone. If our mind is cluttered with fear or judgment, our emotions follow. But when we cultivate clarity and goodwill, we lay the emotional foundation of all ethical behaviors. Then hukta, good words. Thoughts evolve into words, and words carry emotional vibration. The Gathas remind us that speech is not neutral, it can uplift or wound somebody. That's why hukta means more than polite language. It's about speaking from emotional maturity. When we speak truthfully and kindly, we transmit our values into the world. And at the end, huvarasta, good deeds. Thoughts and words culminate into action, the most visible form of our emotional intentions. A good deed is not just a behavior, it is the truth in motion. It's where our inner values are tested and where our emotions align and become tangible. Huvarasta reminds us that integrity isn't just an abstractive virtue, it's how we show up in real life. And here's where it all ties together. In the Zoroastrian worldview, emotion is not an obstacle, it's a divine instrument. When our feelings are aligned with Asha, the truth, the order, and the divine law, then emotions become sacred. It stops being reactive or chaotic. It becomes a catalyst for creation. I have some more, like one or two slides I would like to finish. It has more deep meaning, which I thought will be important for today's talk. People talk about law of attraction and gathas, but Lord Zarathustra taught that our internal focus, our mental and emotional orientation determines our external reality. This wasn't about material gains or quick manifestation. It was about spiritual causality. How what we nurture inside manifests in the world we build outside. In that way, the Gathas offer a spiritual architecture that actually predates modern theories like the law of attraction. The power of emotional focus. What we emotionally dwell on, whether it's fear, hope, envy, or faith, becomes the vibration we emit, and in turns, what we resonate with others. This isn't mystical, it's emotional physics. Emotional focus is like a tuning fork. What we hold within becomes the frequency we project. And that frequency influences what we notice, what we attract, and also what we build. And then emotions aren't isolated, as I just said before. They build upon each other. Every moment of gratitude, anger, joy, anxiety stacks up, creating a cumulative emotional field that affects how we feel, think, act, react to others. This is why emotional awareness that I'm talking today and daily alignment are so vital. Unchecked small feelings as well grow into patterns over time. They can either uplift or weigh us down. And the remedy in our terms, in Zoroastrian terms, is to align ourselves with Asha, which means truth, order, and divine harmony. Asha is not just cosmic law, it's the emotional alignment with the higher truth. When we live in Asha, our feelings become clear, our decisions gain purpose, and our inner life reflects the order of creation. In this way, Asha acts like a spiritual magnet, pulling our emotional field into coherence, clarity, and peace. And another important aspect, that this is my final aspect that I want to talk about, is letting go and letting flow, healing through asha, homeostasis, and emotional transformation. First of all, we should acknowledge emotional weight. Many people don't do that. As humans, we all carry burdens, anger, regret, grief, or even shame. These emotions are valid and part of our journey. But if we don't process them, they can become permanent cargo, weighing us down spiritually and mentally. The Gathas invite us to acknowledge these emotional weights without judgment, but also without any attachment. And in Zoroastrianism, the path of Asho, or the righteous one, is about living in alignment with the higher truth. That means learning to let go of what no longer serves our evolution, old narratives, toxic patterns, outdated identities. If it doesn't serve a purpose and it's not for the greater good, we should let it go. Letting go isn't a weakness, it's an act of inner strength, a sacred declustering that allows us higher self to emerge. And then, just as the body seeks homeostasis, that's natural state of balance, so too does the soul in our body. When emotional energy is blocked, we feel stuck. But when we allow it to flow, healing happens. When you allow the bad emotions, evil emotions to go out of your body, healing starts after that. Flow isn't chaos, it's guided release. It's in return to our natural rhythm where emotions evolve, not erupt. Emotional resistance is often what creates suffering. But the moment we stop fighting the pain, we open a doorway to transformation. This is where the Zoroastrian idea of grace comes in, not as divine favor, but as a clarity and compassion that arise when we transmute pain into purpose. In this way, our darkest emotions become sacred material for light. And with that, I would like to put my concluding reflections, manifesting optimized purpose, emotional wisdom. Every day we absorb emotions, every day. Joy, tension, worry, gratitude, happiness. They don't just pass through us, they accumulate. They form the undercurrent of how we speak, act, and relate. Becoming mindful of these accumulations is like trending into spiritual ecosystem. What we carry within, we project outward. If we want peace in the world, we must cultivate in it, in our heart first. In Zoroastrian teaching, Spentamanu, the bountiful spirit, the good spirit, is a mindset of generosity, kindness, and creative purpose. To live with Pentamenu is to consciously choose the light over fear, to choose clarity over chaos. It's not just perfection, it's about daily alignment with a better self, guided by compassion and wisdom. Perfection can never be attained. It's always about daily alignment. True prayer doesn't end when the words stop. In fact, that's when it begins. When our inner devotion moves into action, when what we believe is reflected in how we treat others, how we solve problems, and how we serve the world in greater good, that's when prayers come into motion. The Zoroastrian path calls us not only to believe, but also to embody the teachings and spirit. Finally, we return to the sacred triad Humata, Hukta, Huvarasta. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. These are not lofty ideas to strive for once in a while. They are daily practices, rituals of integrity that shape our emotional frequency and echo divine order in the world. In the world of noise, may our thoughts be clear, our words be kind, and our deeds be meaningful. Thank you so much.
Marvelous. Thank you very much, Arvat Sahib Vispikarkarya. Today, I think when this recording gets shared as a reel, and I hope it does get shared as a reel with the youth particularly, but also with great AI people who will be making networks for the future. I think we realize something that our parents, certainly my mummy, Jaru, has always taught me. Be mindful. Every moment counts. Likewise, interestingly, in AI, all the principles Arvatsai Bispi has actually outlined today, including being aware of what's happening. AI is actually very sensitive to being watched, to being asked, to being reinforced. So the role of human beings is even more important in the modern day AI than it has ever been with computers in the past, as I see it. So I do hope this talk gets listened to because it has huge impact. May you continue from strength to strength, Arvatsai Bispi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Human beings have to work along with the AI.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we hope we'll hear from you again soon, Arvatsai Bispi, on another such talk that bridges spirituality and science. Thank you.
Definitely. I will be honored.
Thank you. Our next speaker of the day is Farzan Bilimoria. Farzan Bilimoria is a recent master's graduate and a hospitality professional. Farzan started his career in hospitality in 2012 and went on a corporate detour and then returned to the service industry just last year. He was born in Mumbai in India and was raised in a typical Parsi household where he was inculcated with the remnants of our great religion: good thought, good words, and good deeds. He remains hopeful to carry on the legacy of his forebearers in the quest to take our religion and its teaching into the next generation. If ever you get a chance to meet Farzan, you will truly feel the vibrations of security, of good leadership, and of a stable personality who reaches out his hand to stabilize others, to help them along the way. And we see this in the ZTFE at every function. So Farzan, a huge note of gratitude to you and your parents for who you are. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Greetings of the day, everyone, wherever you are. I hope you're having a good day. So today we are speaking about emotions. Emotions is, from what I feel and from what I've learned and understood throughout my life, is that emotions are something that is not just a byproduct of our existence. It is a thing, the very thing that makes us humans, and it is something that we should always strive to understand for ourselves in order for us to keep getting better over time. That is the role that emotion plays in our life. Now, I grew up in a Parsi household, learned all the Parsi prayers and the ways of our religion and how things are done and how everyone interacts with each other. It was something that was an experience for me. And since I've moved to the UK about a year ago, I have been seeing this sort of movement across our community at the ZTFE, which is not too far from where I live, actually. And okay, now coming to emotions, I think God has created us, all of us, to have our own will. Not just the will to choose, the will to be, the will to speak our minds, the will to think what we think is the best way. Uh, Now, having said all of that, we form perceptions. From what we think, from what we see, from the people we meet, we form perceptions every single day as we go through our life, and that leads us to having different sorts of emotions. And I think that yes, even though the highlight of our life should be to always try and let go of the negative emotions and always embrace the positive ones, but it is always not the case. It is always not possible. It is something that's a mixed experience, is what I've come to believe. Is that emotions are positive and negative. There is light and dark within everyone. There is light and dark in everything that we come across in the universe. It is just how we react to those emotions. It is just how we act to those desires or temptations is what makes the difference between the light prevailing or the darkness consuming us all. So that is how precarious our decision making is when it comes to dealing with our emotions. It has never actually been about not just completely dismissing negative emotions. It is I think more about learning from your negative emotions, more about thinking what not to do, what the of path that we must not take as humans in order for our spiritual journey to remain pure and keep going on forward. So these are actually also the tenets of our religion. I mean, well, in our texts in our religion, when we read, what I understand is that our being, the way we are every single day, it's not I wouldn't say it's a struggle, but I think every single day we make choices, and our choices are either light or dark, and so it is what leads to the road that our life is going to have along the way. So prayers, coming to prayers play a very important part. Prayers, the teachings of our religion. Of course, I am not as enlightened as the other speakers are in when it comes to prayers, the gathas, because I'm not an ordained priest. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I try to learn as much as I can about our great religion, about its prayers, about its ways, about its teachings. I've learned a great deal from my parents. I've learned a great deal from my younger brother, who's also a PhD student in religion studies. And I think prayers at the end of the day play a very important part in driving our soul, in driving our consciousness towards the light. Because sometimes we might feel the something is the correct decision to make, but then it might not actually be the correct decision. It might lead us astray from the actual path of Asha. So I think having the knowledge of our prayers, having the guiding light of our prayers within us, is something that helps us walk that path and walk that path steadfastly. Um, I was actually told that this talk was supposed to last for not more than 5 to 6 minutes. Hence, I have not prepared too much for material to speak about. But this is the gist of my understanding of what I believe the topic to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Farzan. Farzan actually embodies all that he has talked about. So he doesn't just speak, he actually practices these deep philosophies that he has explained so simply to us today. And as he inspires us with just his very presence, his younger brother, whom he mentioned, Shiroi, takes this to the level of actually his PhD work, where he investigates entrepreneurship and the principles of Zoroastrian faith and how it inspires and guides entrepreneurship. So if we just think about some of the things Farzan has said, and we think about his role in hospitality, how many times have we gone to a restaurant or to a place of entertainment and expected from that moment a lifetime's experience? How much must be going into emotional, spiritual development of each of those people who serves us, from the manager on the floor to the waiters who serve us, to the people who have cooked the food that we enjoy? How much they must be having to control in order to give us a perfect experience. That is the sort of thing Farzan brings into reality with his everyday work. So when we next visit a place, let us just put a little thought into the emotions of the people who are bringing us that perfect evening and
How
give
much
them gratitude.
psychology?
How much psychology? How much? I think Erwad Vispi used another word, homeostasis. So we have on this call Erwad Firdosh Dabar, who looks at the emotional homeostasis of the neuroendocrine system. All these things come together in our spiritual development. And today's next speaker, I hope, will give us an even deeper understanding. Thank you, Farzan, for that splendid understanding you shared with us.
Welcome. Always welcome.
Sarosh Manekshaw, a name that many people associate with a stalwart in the Zoroastrian field. Sarosh is an active member of the Zoroastrian Association of Houston. He has served as the guest editor of the Fazana Journal on the topic of date and time of Zarathustra, as well as on the issue Treasures from the Avesta, our daily prayers. Sarosh has actively participated in many other Zartushti and interfaith activities, spoken to church groups, presented papers at several conferences, and published numerous articles in the Fazana Journal. He has presented papers at several Zartushti conferences, including at the North American Mubbits Council seminar in April 2009 in Houston. His short biography probably doesn't do enough justice to the fact that Sarosh is from the IIT Kharagpur in India, a highly trained engineer, a person who has served society, led teams, and built people and professions. So as we listen to Sarosh, we hope to gain a deep understanding of the traditional Zartushti faith message, but also how it can affect our lives and our work. Sarosh, over to you, and thank you very much.
Karishma, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're a little soft, but we
Okay.
can hear you.
Thank you. Just a minor correction to your introduction for me. I'm still a member of the Zoroastrian Association of Houston, but not an active member since I moved out of Houston. So that's just a minor correction. I want to thank and appreciate the three previous speakers who talked. Their talk was very enlightening and thought-provoking. And I'm going to be presenting a slightly different view, and hopefully that can generate some thoughts about why there's some of these differences. The theme from the talk is life is a manifestation of culmination from emotional accumulation. And the purpose of this seminar is to explain this theme through the inspiring divine message of Zarathustra. Zarathustra's message is clearly only in his Gathas. That's where we have the source, and that is the primary and only source of Zarathustra's thoughts and message. So when I looked at the theme, I had a difficulty linking Zarathustra's message to this theme. And my first thought was to pass on this topic. And then I had quite a few discussions with Farokh Mistry and with Karishma. And I said that to me, these themes are incompatible. And I didn't want to talk and create a controversy over this because I've in the past been considered a controversial speaker in many forums that I've spoken at. But both Farokh and Karishma encouraged me to talk, and they said it would be interesting for me to present a different point of view. So here goes. The theme is asking to find an emotional component in Zarathustra's message. To me, the message of Zarathustra is strictly ethical. There is no emotion. And that is where my discomfort lay. I could not find an emotional component in the Gathas. So if at the end of this talk you disagree with me, please, we'll discuss it gladly in the question and answer period. Okay. Prior to Zarathustra's time, we have to understand and go back to the fundamentals. Prior to Zarathustra's time, there were a plethora of gods. There were multitudes of gods. And many of these gods were common to both in the Indo and in the Iranian religion. And for a greater detail of this, go and refer to Louis Gray's The Foundations of the Iranian Religion in the Journal of the K.R. Kama Oriental Institute, volume 15. It's a really interesting document that I think everyone should really read to get the understanding of how Zarathustra started his message. These gods, these multitude of gods were prayed to by everyone for both boons and banes. So the same God was prayed to for the God to give you something good and to cause harm to others, possibly. So if you didn't like didn't like someone in your neighborhood, you pray to the god to punish that guy. At the same time, you say to the pray to God, please give me good health. So the same gods could be good and evil. Zarathustra's genius was the fact that he dichotomized existence into good and evil. It was absolutely clear. There was no, he named Ahura Mazda as a supreme or good being, and Angre Melu as the evil spirit. Good was good and evil was evil. Unlike light and darkness or day and night, there were no 50 shades of gray in Zarathustra's message. There was no compromise, no meeting halfway. In other words, there was no, well, I'm 75% good and 25% bad. There was no such thing. You were 100% good or 100% bad. There was no mixture in his theology. So this is expounded in Yasna 30.3. Yes, there are two fundamental spirits, twins, which are renowned to be in conflict in thought and in word, in action. They are two, the good and the bad. And between these two, the beneficent have chosen correctly, not the malfeasant. This is a translation by Stanley Insler. All my translations will be by Stanley Insler. So as you can see in Gatha, in Yasna 30.3, it clearly says that the good is the good and the bad is the bad. That to me is the core of Zarathustra's theology. Again, in Yasna 45.2, he says, yes, I shall speak of the fundamental spirits of existence, of which the virtuous one would have thus spoken to the evil one. Neither our thoughts, nor teachings, nor intentions, neither our preferences, nor words, neither our actions, nor conceptions, nor our souls are in accord. So again, here he reinforces that dichotomy, and it's a sharp dichotomy. It's not a blend. There's no, as I said, there's no 75-25 or 50-50 or 80-20. 100% good, 100% bad. So to summarize Gatha, in Zarathustra's theology, good and evil were polar opposites. There's no mixture over there. Now, Zarathustra's next great contribution was that Ahura Mazda gave us freedom of choice. Yes, in Yasna 30.5, he says, yes, these two spirits, of these two spirits, the deceitful one chose to bring to realization the worst thing, but the very virtuous spirit, who is clothed in the hardest of stones, shows the truth. And so shall those who shall satisfy the wise Lord continuously with true action. So the freedom of choice was given to both the spiritual beings as well as to humans. And what is important is that neither Ahura Mazda nor Angre Melu can directly influence this decision. This decision of choice is up to us. We make it. And we have to use our good mind, the Bahumana, to make the decision to choose. So the ethical theme to promote good and eschew evil is present in each of the 17 Gothic chapters. That's the message of throughout the Gathas. When I read them, the only thing I see is be good and avoid evil. That's the choice that that Zarathustra has laid out in the Gatha. It should be noted that in Yasna 29, Geush Urban, the soul of the cow, asked Ahura Mazda to appoint a protector for him. When Ahura Mazda named Zarathustra as his protector, Geush Urban laments the human being appointed. So there is a lamentation, but I don't know if that lamentation is actually an emotional expression. It's more a frustration. But he later, Geush Urban accepts Zarathustra as his protector. Now, a word of caution. Certain and only in a very few cases, words have been pointed out expressing emotion. I have put together a number of English translations of the Gatha side by side. And looking at these numerous translations, These words have been variously translated. While we have a penchant to select the translation that best agrees with our point of view, we must be cautious that there are other possible interpretations. So, in other words, we can't take one word in the Gatha and say, this is his major theme, a word. And even that word itself may have been differently, it can be differently interpreted. So, for example, this was pointed out to me by Karishma, is in Yasna 51:22, there is a word banta, and some have translated it as love, but there is also, in the context of that particular verse and chapter, it also could mean to revere or to venerate. So again, we cannot use one word and say that this, based on this one word, this is what God, what Zarathustra's whole message was. So look, let me say that there is no there's no mention in any of the verses of compassion, of forgiveness, or love thy neighbor. Unlike Christians, who Christ said when he was on the cross, forgive the sinners for they have sinned, forgive them for they are sinners. In rationalism, we don't have the concept of forgiveness. Forgiveness is foreign to this concept. In fact, one of the translators of the Gathas, John Moulton, uh, in the early 20th century, criticized. He was a Christian missionary, obviously coming to try to proselytize and convert uh, Indians to Christianity, and he attacked the Parsis by saying that the Zoroastrian religion lacks love and forgiveness. And that's true. There isn't in the Gathas any love or forgiveness. We don't forgive. If we have sinned, we repent, and to make up for the sins, we do more good. There is no concept of forgiveness. So to conclude, Zarathustra's message was predominantly ethical. Now, let me qualify that. He must have had fireside chats where he sat around with his disciples and followers, and they must have had long discussions. And he surely must have talked on topics that that have been the theme of what is up today. And they must have asked him about emotional issues, about issues that concerned their feelings, but unfortunately, the Persians were the lousiest record keepers. We did not put anything down in writing. It is very fortunate that we had the marvelous hierarchy of priests going through from Zarathustra's time to now, who memorized and recited and taught their younger generation the Gathas. So that is the message we have from them. But uh, as I said, there's no mention anywhere in the Gathas of emotions. But we cannot draw a conclusion from a negative. I'm sure he said it, but we don't know for sure that he did, either, that he didn't. So, with that, I just wanted to conclude by saying, to me, the essential message of the Gathas is ethical and based on doing good. And I see very little to no component of emotions in it. Glad to discuss any differences of opinion with you guys in the question and answer period. Thank you. Thank you, Karishma.
Thank you very much, Sarosh, for giving us so much to think about and so a different point of view. One of the meanings of Bahumata indirectly is also different opinions, different thoughts. So it means with good thoughts, but in Indian language, it also means the voice of the many. And Zarathustra Sahib has given us very clearly to individually, narem narem in Yasna 30.2, think for ourselves with our bright intellect, Sucha Mananga. So thank you very much, Sarosh, and I hope it leads to a very lively discussion. So as we come to the end of today's session, let us think about each thing that the speaker has said and build a conversation that enables us to learn more. Let's now take a look at the chat. Each one of you is empowered on this platform to raise your digital hand and speak for yourself. So I'll try not to read out your comments unless somebody requires it. Please raise your digital hand and unmute yourself straight away. There is a question from somebody who was with us but who has had to leave to teach, Professor Mehran Seferi, who wishes everyone Mehrgan Khojaste Bad and asks Ervad Bispi Karkarya this question. Let me just spotlight you. He says, can machines and AI also choose between Angramainyu and Spentamainyu? Question 2, can we program the machines to do so?
That's a very good question, and it's honestly a debatable question in the AI community itself when we go into conferences. But like from my own experience, in some way, yes. Uh, for example, like Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, which created ChatGPT and all, they purposefully make guardrails in order for the AI not to go towards the wrong direction. And they also make sure about like the answers coming from AI, are they correct or like ethically correct or ethically wrong? Because they did say in their own papers and during an interview that people do ask very difficult questions to AI that they are not comfortable talking to other humans. Like they can be related to mental health, they can be related to ethical questions as well. Like there are people just asking AI, can I do this? Is it ethically correct or wrong? And if people itself are asking those questions, as AI researchers and engineers, it's our duty that the answers coming from this AI algorithms are ethically correct and morally right. So yes, we have to play a big role while we are building this AI algorithms, and um, it should be like this is not my role, but it should be the role of maybe the government or the companies to be aware of the impact that this AI models will bring. And I do see in future as time moves on, people will start asking more and more questions, and they will start building trust on AI. Uh, and there will be people who will blindly trust AI when they ask questions on ChatGPT, like, hey, can I do this? Like, is it ethically correct or wrong? So at that time, ChatGPT or like AI models have to be ethically correct.
Thank you very much. Auntie Roshan Rivetna says, wonderful presentation, Ervid Vispi. Very heartwarming to see how you are bringing your Zoroastrian ethics into your scientific AI designs. Very true. That's the end of the questions in the chat. There are notes of appreciation from many people, and we thank you all for your heartwarming notes. Ervatsai Parvez Karanjia, may I take a few moments to ask you for anything else you want to share, because we limited your time today. But if there's anything else you would like to share to guide us further, until other people put up their hand, we have a couple of minutes. Is there anything else you want to share or guide? And everybody, after your questions, please note we will be moving into the Vahuman sharing section, which means people share the thoughts that they just want to share. Your interpretations, your life experiences. And I'm starting that section off with Ervad Sahib Parvez Karanjia. Ervad Sahib, any experiences you want to share?
After last 50 years, I am practicing as a priest. હવે મારા હવે થોડું ગુજરાતીમાં બી હું બોલીશ થોડું જેથી મને થોડો સેટિસ્ફેક્શન બી મળશે. મારા 3 બચ્ચાઓ છે, 2 દીકરીને મારો દીકરી 1 દીકરો, 3 બચ્ચાઓ. હવે બચ્ચાઓ બધા પરણી ગયા, 3 બચ્ચાઓ. મારી જે સેકન્ડ ડોટર છે તે જ્યારે 1.5 year ઓલ્ડ, જ્યારે 1.5 વર્ષની હતી ત્યારે વલસાડમાં 2 અગિયારી છે, મોટા પારસીવટ અને નાના પારસીવટ. તો વલસાડની અગિયારીમાં પાછળ એક દસ્તુજીનું ઘેર હતું. એ દસ્તુજીનું ઘેર એક બિલ્ડરને આપવામાં આવેલું. જે બિલ્ડરનું નામ છે એડવર્ડ કસ્પી દસ્તુ. તે દસ્તુર નહીં હતા, એટલે પ્રેક્ટિસિંગ મોપેટ તરીકે કામ નહીં કરતા, એવન બિલ્ડર હતા. પણ દસ્તુજીએ એક જ્યારે એમનું જેનું મકાન હતું તે તેઓને એમ કહ્યું કે હું આ જગ્યા તમને આપું તો આ કૂવો અહીંયા બંધ થવો જોઈએ નહીં. તો આજે પણ વલસાડની અંદર તેની પર એક બિલ્ડિંગ બનાવેલી છે, જે દસ્તુજીનું અસલ જૂનું ઘેર હતું તેની પર બિલ્ડિંગ બનાવેલી. જે બિલ્ડિંગનું નામ છે બીના એપાર્ટમેન્ટ, કારણ કે બચ્ચાનું નામ છે બિનાયફર, તેથી નામ આપેલું બિનાયફર એટલે બીના એપાર્ટમેન્ટ વલસાડમાં છે. ત્યાં જે વખતે નવું મકાન બનતું હતું ત્યારે હું ને મારા બચ્ચાઓ અમે લોકો ફર્સ્ટ ટાઈમ અમે લોકો જોવા
Ek
ગયેલા હતા.
second, Parvez Sahib, we'll take a break. Your voice is breaking up. In case you can talk a little slower, it will probably help. But I can just translate what I understood for those people who may not have proficiency in Gujarati or who may be Farsi speakers or speak only English. What Ervat Sahib is saying is he's sharing an experience from years ago. He has 3 children, all 3 married. He's sharing an experience when his middle daughter was about a year and a half old in Valsad, where there was an open well. It was in the house of one of the Ervat Sahibs over there. Yes, Ervat Sahib Karanjia. Go
એ
ahead,
વખતે
please.
ઘેર જોવા ગયેલા હતા ત્યારે કુવાની દિવાલ એ લોકોએ કરી નાખેલી હતી ને તે બિલ્ડિંગ ઉપર બનાવતા હતા. એ કન્સ્ટ્રક્શનનું કામ ચાલુ હતું. તો તે વખતે મારું બચ્ચું મારો હાથ છોડીને કુવામાં અમારી સંભે 90 ફીટ ડીપ ઇનસાઇડ કુવાની અંદર બચ્ચું અમારી સંભે પડી ગયું. અને તેની અંદર મોટર પંપ બધું જ હતું. પરંતુ તે જે ઘેર હતું તે અસલના જમાનામાં એ ઘેરની અંદર રિચ્યુઅલ સેરેમનીઝ, મેજેસ્ટી સેરેમનીઝ ને વનીડાટ સેરેમનીઝ તે ઘેરોમાં અસલ થતા હતા. ને સેરેમનીઝ ને રિચ્યુઅલ્સ બધું થતું હતું. તો તે એટલો પવિત્ર કૂવો હતો. તો તે બચ્ચું મારું કૂવામાં ગયું ત્યારે અમે લોકોએ ડાડોરમેનને તારા અંતકરણથી યાદ કરીએ ને ડાડોરમેનને કહ્યું કે બચ્ચાને આપવાવાળા બી તમે છો ને લેવાવાળા બી તમે છો, તમારી શક્તિ છે. તો ડાડોરમેનને ખાલી આપણે આંખ બંધ કરીને દુઆ કરી. એ વખતે મારા ફાધર ઇન લો, મધર ઇન લો સાથે હતા અને મારું બચ્ચું 1.5 વર્ષનું કૂવામાં નીચે પડી ગયું 90 ફીટ ડીપ ઇનસાઇડ. પંપ મોટર બધું જ હતું.
Okay, thank you.
તે ટાઈમે
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
તે ટાઈમે
Go
અંદર
ahead, take
જે માણસ જઈ
Yeah.
બચ્ચાને બહાર લાવ્યો ત્યારે એમ સમજો કે બચ્ચું ભીનું બી નહીં થયેલું હતું, માથામાં પથ્થર નહીં લાગેલો, કઈ નહીં થયેલું. અને આવા આદિવાસી માનવની મદદથી બચ્ચું સેફ સાઈડ નીચેથી પેલો માણસ કૂવામાંથી કાઢી લાવ્યો. એટલે મારું એટલું જ કહેવાનું છે કે મારવા કરતા બચાવવાનો ઘણા મોટા છે દાદાઓમાં છે. એટલે દાદાઓમાં એવરી ડે ઇઝ અ ન્યુ બોર્ન ડે, આપણો નવો જન્મ છે. આજે આપણે બધા સવારના ઉઠ્યા એ બી આપણો એક નવો જન્મ છે. એટલે દાદરમતનો આપણા એક એક્સપિરિયન્સ એવો થયેલો છે લાઈફમાં, એવા 3 એક્સપિરિયન્સો લાઈફમાં થયા છે કે જેથી કરીને આપણે ભગવાનની ઉપર ફેથ વધી ગયો છે. અને આપણું ઝોરાસ્ટ્રિયન રિલિજનના એક જે કલામો છે, એક જે મંત્ર જે છે એટલા પાવરફુલ છે કે જેથી કરીને જે પણ માણસ સવારના ઉઠશે અને 4 વાગ્યાથી 5:30 સુધીનો જે સમય છે 4 AM to 5:30 AM ને તમે દુઆ માંગશો કે તમારું દુનિયામાં તમામ કામ કંઈ બાકી રહેતું હોય એ તમામ કામ ઉચ્ચેંગીમાં ઓસ્મામમાં દુઆ માંગવી જોઈએ અને સક્સેસ જરૂરથી મળે. આ મારા લાઈફનો એક્સપિરિયન્સ છે. અને 50 વર્ષની અંદર મારા એવા 3 એવા મિરેકલ્સો લાઈફમાં મને જોવાના મળ્યા છે. અને ભણવાની શક્તિ એટલી અપાર છે કે એનાથી તમે જે પણ માંગશો એ દાદાઓમાં પહેલી વસ્તુ કે આપણે દાદાઓમાં સરેન્ડર થવાનું છે. આપણે સરેન્ડર થતા
Thank
નથી.
you.
ઘણા લોકો કે વસ્તુજી હું ઘણું બધું ભણું છું, ઘણી પ્રેયર્સ કરું છું, 5 ડે ભણું છું, પરંતુ તમે ખરા અંતકરણથી દાદાઓમાં સરેન્ડર થશો તો દરેક કામમાં તમને સક્સેસ મળશે. નો ડાઉટ કે લાઈફમાં અપ્સ એન્ડ ડાઉન્સ ઘણા આવશે, પરંતુ તમે સવારના 4 વાગ્યાથી લઈને 5:30 સુધીનો જે સમય છે તેમાં 33 ફરિશ્તાઓની હાજરી છે, 33 એન્જલ્સ, જેને આપણે ઓર્મન બ્રહ્મન અનિવેશ સર્વર હસબન્ડ જે કહીએ. અને બીજા 3 રોજો બર્જીસ, ઓમ યઝર અને ડમ યઝર, એ 33 ફરિશ્તાઓની સવારી તે સવારના 4 AM to 5:30 AM માં તમારે સવારના ઉઠીને દુઆ માંગવાની છે. અને સમજો કે રાતના 3 વાગ્યાથી માંડીને સવારના 5 સુધીની અંદર 5 AM સુધીની અંદર તમને જો ઊંઘમાંથી ઉઠવું પડે એટલે એમ સમજો કે દાદાઓમાં એક એવી સિગ્નલ છે કે તમને જો રાત્રે 3 વાગ્યાથી 5 વાગ્યામાં જો તમારી ઊંઘ ઉડી જાય કુદરતી નેચરલ રીતે, પછી જે કોઈ પણ રીઝન હોય ને તમે રાતના ઉઠો તો એમ સમજો કે દાદાઓમાં તમારી પાસે દુનિયામાં કોઈ કામ લેવાનું બાકી છે, કે તમારી પાસે કોઈ સારું કામ કરાવવા માંગે છે એમ સમજવું. કે સવારના 4 AM to 5:30 AM માં તમારે દુઆ માંગવાની છે. અને સરોસેઝર એક એવા ઇન્ટરેસ્ટ છે કે આપણને જીવતાનું પણ રક્ષણ કરે અને આફ્ટર ડેથ પછી પણ આપણને આપણું રક્ષણ કરે. એટલે સરોસેઝરને રોજ યાદ કરવાના છે અને બની શકે તો રોજ સવારના ઓસબમ ભરી શકાય તો ભરવું જોઈએ અને જેથી કરીને આપણા જે પણ કંઈ વિશેષ હોય જે કંઈ પણ જે હોય તો આપણે દાદાઓને સરેન્ડર થઈને માંગવું જોઈએ તો દાદાઓમાં જ આપણને જરૂરથી હેલ્પ કરશે અને દરેક સક્સેસ
Thank
અપાવશે
you.
અને આપણા અવસ્થાના કલામો એટલા પાવરફુલ છે કે જેને કંઈ પણ ભણતા નહીં આવડે તો આઈએમની નિરંક બની શકાય અથવા જે લોકોને ભણતા આવડતું હોય તો
Ervad Sahib,
થેન્ક યુ
Unjara translate karo so that I can also remember some of what you said. So,
થેન્ક યુ
relating what Ervad Sahib has just explained to today's theme is a very important example he gave from his own life. He calls it a miracle, but there are lessons on today's theme from this. His 1.5-year-old daughter fell into a 90-foot deep well. The person who saved her was actually a person who was released from prison on charge of murder. This person saved a child's life. Now imagine the emotional torment that person has gone through on multiple levels, committing sin, being punished, being released. But he was there on time to save this child's life. And Ervat Sahib Parvez Karanjia was explaining the power of prayer is answered, but in this particular case, it was answered by this man released from prison at that moment, being present and being willing, emotionally willing, to pick out a child from a 90-foot deep well. The next part of Ervat Sahib Parvez Karanja's explanation said that at a time between 3:30 and 5 in the morning, time of a part of Hoshbam in the morning, he says, if your sleep breaks and you are summoned by Aura Mazda into the conscious realm of the world, then note to yourself that it is to do good actions. He also guides us to, where possible, awaken at that time and pray. And he spoke of the Yazatas Home, Daham, and Berez, who will help us with our good. Ervasab Vispi, I think you also understand Gujarati. So please help me translate some of this if I make any mistakes. And also Ervasab Arzan. So there he was giving us guidance on how to pray in order to manifest what we want and regulate our emotions. Thank you, sir. We have a question from Farooq Mistry. Over to you.
It's not a question. It's a comment, and maybe it should be done a little later so you can stop me. Let me tell you why I enjoyed today's presentation. You've heard of the adage, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. A square peg in a round hole. I want to think of Zarathustra's Gathas as the round hole. And 3 out of the 4 people today, in my mind, tried to fit a square peg into the round hole of the Gathas. Sarosh quite correctly mentioned that there is no emotion in the Gathas. None. It deals with good thoughts, yes. No emotion in that. Good words, yes. Good words to do what? To do good deeds, yes. Emotion doesn't come into that. That's irrational. Sarosh also mentioned that there is no forgiveness, as there is in Christianity in the Gathas. None. There's no emotion. Because if there was emotion, rationality would not prevail. And then, hey, guess what? You will be making decisions that are emotional, that sound good, feel good, but are not in keeping with the tenets of our religion. So Sarosh, in my mind, fitted what he was talking about in the round hole, which is the Gathas. The others, they talked about their selves and their feelings and tried to cram it into the Gathas. It's natural. You feel that way. You say, hey, look, I'm a Zoroastrian. I feel that way. I think this way. Therefore, let me put in it. But what you do then is to create a dilemma. You create an intellectual disconnect. And that intellectual disconnect is what I think we have to question and think about. By no means am I saying what I've said is right, because Edward the Karanjar very passionately talked about emotions, as did Edward Vispi Karkaria. But in my mind, what we really truly have to do is to look at things dispassionately and say, are we trying to fit a square peg in a round hole? And if we do that, what's the future of our religion? So that's my comment. And I welcome comments from others who can push back to make things happen. Firdosh, perhaps, Sarosh, Lispi, Pervez, whoever would like to counter what I have said.
Would anybody like to offer a thought based on what Professor Farooq Mistry has just shared?
I think you shouldn't say Professor Farooq Mistry, because I'm not a professor of religion or anything like that. I'm talking as an individual. That's just Farooq Mistry.
Very true. Anybody would like to offer a thought? Okay, nobody? Okay, I'll start off. So yes, I do have a little pushback. I have agreement first, and that is the gathas are written at a certain time, memorized a certain way, and translated based on the intellect, the experiences, the interpretation, and the language background of the translator. These are some of the factors that affect the interpretation. Now, I'll choose a couple of things that I feel would push back to some extent to part of what Farooq Mistry just said, and thereby push back to what Sarosh, with due respect, has said. I'm not pushing back against what they have said, but just the thoughts that they are sharing so that each one of you listening to our recording or on the call today can develop your own thoughts. That is the purpose with which I'm doing this. In the Yatahu Vairya prayer, there's a word Vairya. It is this concept of choice. Now, what affects our choice is actually our emotional state, our mental thoughts, and our integrity. At least three things affect our choice. So when we talk about good thoughts, as a neuroscientist, thoughts affect not just how we feel, the emotional manifestation, but actually our neuroendocrine system. It affects our neurotransmitters. Our thoughts affect our endocrine system. Our thoughts affect the bacteria in our gut, which produces our vitamins. So if you look just at the concept of thoughts, it is affecting our feelings directly and indirectly. But what does the Gatha say about feelings? When we look at the word armat, aramaiti, Aramat together with Bahumana are the supporters of discretion. Yasna 46.5 says, together with Armaiti and Mitroibio and Asha, help me to develop discretion to hold together the Kaitva. Kaitva is that energy that holds us, our self-esteem, our belief, our energy, Kaitvatatam when we say in the Kasti prayers, that self-belief with which we hold fast in the world. So now in order to hold fast, what are our guides as per the Gathas? Yasna 31.4 also tells us that Armat, Armaiti together with Vahumano support regulation, our regulation. So what comes to our regulation? Our regulation to me is our thoughts and how we feel. Both at a cellular, electromagnetic level, our feelings develop, which manifest as things we can put words to. So that's Yasna 31.4 as I interpret it. So how do we normally translate Armaiti or Armaitish? It is serenity or purity and devotion. But another way of looking at Armat from the German translator Guthrie's translation is the resolute mind. So when we give these words, serenity, devotion, purity, these are all emotions. Zarathustra Sahib has used Aramaiti or Armaitish or Armaitoish. So when we say Yasna 28 verse 7, it says, Vangeosh ayapta manango daidi tu Armaiti. So through the good mind, give me, but together with Armaiti. So the mind and Armaiti often go together to help the righteous people. This comes also in the Atarshnyas, Yasna 33, verse 13, Armaiti and this. But there's much more emotion in the Gathas. Shnevisha geuscha urvanim, when we say in Yasna 28.1, Shnevisha is to please. If Shnevisha is to please, then emotion is not just at the human level, it is in our interaction with the wisdom. That means our attunement with the universal wisdom, Auramazda, is through a sense of resonance, which gives us a sense of, like a tuning fork in synchronicity. That pleases us. So pleasing has a spiritual meaning. Then there are many words. Zevish, strength with affection for Auramazda. We have Vivangatu in Yasna 53.5 for marriage, but marriage as in also contracts. It is to help each other shine brighter. To me, that's an emotion. It's not just an intellect. So it says, Sakveni vezyemnabhyo kainibro momi, shmaibyacha vaidemno. All this mutual resonance and helping each other shine is for a form of love, true devotion, based on daina bishabhyasta, and with a good mind to resonate with Asha. So, Farokh, I can go on about this, but it comes back to the words of the 6 Amesha Spentas that guide the thought, the word, the deed, the feeling, the human emotion, but also our resonance with Auramazda. I'll give you time to push back to me and then hand over to our other speakers after you push back so that they hear you first.
May I interject?
Tarasha wants to say something. Go ahead.
I don't disagree with what you said, but as I pointed out, that there are these words that can be interpreted as emotional feelings, but you have to look at it more holistically. And if you look at the gathas holistically, the message is exclusively ethical. The words, yes, and there is some controversy over those words. So I'm not saying, and I said that surely Zarathustra in his fireside chats discussed exactly these topics that that the previous speakers talked about. So I'm not saying that that Zarathustra did not express his emotions. He surely did, but we have no record of that. And from a negative, we can't prove anything. That's the point I'm trying to make. What we have the record on is his gathas, and his gathas are strictly ethical. That's the point I was trying to make.
From my side,
Okay,
the pushback
and then
comes in
I'll ask you a question in a moment, but let Farokh give his pushback to
come
pushback
back
to
to you in the
answer.
following way. What is supreme? Which of the Amesha Spentas is supreme? You talked about the Amesha Spentas, you're quite right. If you look at the Anuveti Gatha, the number of times Vahumana comes in is far more than any of the others. If you look at the other Gathas, the same thing is true. Just the word Vahumana. So I would suggest to you that the mind is viewed in the Gathas as supreme. And you're quite right that when you look at it from a neuroscience perspective, that there are these things that come through. But I think what Zarathustra is telling us in the Amesha Spentas and the way in which it's put together is that your mind overrule what happens. Why? Because mind allows you to be ethical. Mind allows you to be rational. And these are things that are universal. Emotions are not universal. The emotions change with different people, how they view things, what happens, etc., etc. So the way I look at it is that we are asked to be dispassionate if we want to be ethical. We cannot be emotional and ethical at the same time, Bisbee. I don't buy that. It cannot be done. You have to be dispassionate. So that's where I'm coming from. And I think this is something that we all need to talk about, not say, I feel this way, therefore that's what happens. Now, we may not wish to confront such a very difficult statement saying, hey, guess what? Zarathustra has told us that the mind is paramount and emotions are secondary. Because then if you tie it to ethics, the mind is that which allows you to be ethical. If you're emotional, ethics, and if you're emotional and you're thinking in terms of ethics, your ethics can be swayed. It goes into the notion of saying the end justifies the means. That's a philosophical tradition, ethical tradition. That's what happens. End justifies the mean. My feeling tells me that's what you should be doing. But if you think about Kant, Kant says very clearly that you have to focus on that which is right and not anything else. So that's where I come from.
Thank you, Farooq. I'll push back a little and then hand over to our speakers, unless the speakers have developed their thoughts yet. Anything to say? Okay. So this is my pushback to pushback to pushback. And I need to make this point here so that those who are reflecting and listening can then feel that they can share their thoughts based on the references they can bring up. So in the Hoshbam, so let's move a little from the Gathas and then come back to the Gathas. In the Hoshbam, it says, Asha Vahishta, Asha Sreshta, Dare Samatva, Pairitva Jamyama, Hamemtwa Hakma. It says, Asha Vahishta, Asha Sreshta, Asha is the best. Dare Samatva, I want to see you. He's addressing Aura Mazda. Pairitva Jamyama, I want to be close to you. Hamem tha hakma, in eternal hakmem. What is the translation of hakmem? Since it is Mehergan recently, hakmem relates very strongly to
Friendship.
hakmem. Very true, Utok Shizarolia ma'am. Friendship. Now, this friendship is a form of collaborative spirit with Ahura Mazda. How does this relate to the Yathahu Vairyo prayer? In the Yathahu Vairyo, we say, Dadat Vastarem. I want to be a giver to those who need. But what's the greater purpose? Angeush Mazdai Shatrem Cha Ahura. I want to bring strength into this world of Ahura, that great divine or creative energy that is the great wisdom. Let's put these two together. I take it one step further from what you've said, Farooq, with due respect, if I may please. And that is in the Zoroastrian Daina. I'm not using the word faith or philosophy. In that conscience of consciousness, the emotions of the human being, called the finest creations of Ahura Mazda, are elevated to merge or to resonate with ethics, so that our ethics are not driven by emotion. They are our very being. They are our emotion. So how does that relate to the good mind? We have a word in the, and I'll finish with this so that others can then either agree or disagree from their perspective with whichever side or find the middle path. We have a word saying Vyanya in Yasna 44, when he talks about the affection between parent and child, 44:7. Now, this is who makes beloved. The word is beloved. Now, you can take that as an emotion, or you can take that as a duty, or you can take that as a responsibility of having a child. Who makes that affection, that belovedness, that translated as responsibility of what? Guiding the soul of the child. That is Vyanya. To make beloved, says some translators. Then we have Hakmi in verse 34, again like Hakmim. And then finally, coming back to the verse 32:13 that we spoke of today, it says, don't hold on to the negative because that makes bad happen in the world. And the verse after talks about the negative emotion of grehmo. Now, what is grehmo? It is what Edward Wispy referred to. Holding on to the worldly emotion. So associating ourselves with the negative that we see in the world. We need to rise into the land of or that Garotman on earth, where the man becomes Garo, The mind sings. I leave it at that and hand over to whoever's been nodding to either part of the argument, including Edward Wispy and Edward Parvez. Edward Wispy, voice of the youth, not to
Yeah.
defend either side, nor to defend yourself, if I may suggest, but to give your interpretation based on what you said and what you heard and what you thought.
Yeah. First of all, this is a very good conversation. Like I honestly feel both of the ways are correct. And the way I think is mind is ruling, and the Gathas teach us what is wrong, what is not, what is wrong, what is correct. And there is no in between of that. Like there cannot be something like 50% wrong or 50% correct. We all should agree with that. And second, it's very clearly said. And like I have been taught everything from my grandfather, Erwad Minochar Karkaria. So he always throughout my childhood taught me like mind should rule. You should make rational decisions by seeing what is correct or what is wrong. But that's not how human beings work. Like we have emotions coming in. Uh, Emotions do drive our decisions. And as priest, when we talk to people, we can't immediately discount emotions. We do like say like we do like not proudly, but like we do say like staunchly, like yes, you should listen to your mind, and your mind should know what is correct and what is wrong, and you should not let emotions take decisions for you. But unconsciously, my grandfather and I feel like emotions do play a role in our decisions. There's so many factors affecting our decisions, which may be complete or incomplete coming in. And I'm not going to like translate each and every verse of Gatha, because I have like read Gathas, but not as a researcher, as a PhD, to like go into the details and translate things. But when we teach people, we should say like right is right, wrong is wrong, and you should make decisions according to your mind. But we should acknowledge that there is emotions which with each human that we have, and it's a continuous process. Like if somebody just came to like learn about things, initially he will start following the virtues of humata huktahu varastha, and then day by day his thoughts will get more and more pure and towards what is correct ethically, and that's how the emotion also improves. And um, there are grudges that people have, so we should let it go. So honestly, I do agree with both the sides, and uh, whatever works for the betterment of people, I agree. And like I think with age as well, like I'm young, I'm 25 right now. So with age, I will have more staunch opinions coming out. But my grandfather has told in like religious practices, until and unless something completely bad is happening, we should agree with opinions, and we should move forward with a more constructive dialogue.
Thank you very much. We have a comment from Dr. Hutokshi Zaroliwala, who teaches Avastha at the University of Bombay and who's a medical doctor as well. Yes, Dr. Zaroliwala, please go ahead.
Yeah. See, there are lots of examples of emotions in our scriptures. I'll just mention a few. And it is sometimes this feeling of depression, anxiety, and all, which, when you're pushed against the wall, that you develop the strength to fight back. Now I'll give you just a few. In the Gathas, it is mentioned that Dathustra was also depressed and asked Auramazda, okay, why is it that I'm not getting any followers earlier on in his mission? Number one. Secondly, when Angramenu tempts him and says that I'll make you the king if you give up all your this thing, he says, even if my bones break, even this thing, my spirit will remain intact, and no matter what happens, I will still follow Aura Mazda and still spread the religion. Number two. Number three, before the advent of Zarathustra, that is, I think, in verse 28 or 29. Sorry, Yasna 28 or 29. Shamaibya Geush Urva. The soul of the earth cries that why had to our mother, that why have you created me? There is so much of crime, torture, sadness, and all in the world. Send me a savior. So that sadness, all these are emotions, very strong emotions, which it is this emotion, it is the trigger which helps, it's like when you pass through fire, you come out better. These trials and tribulations make us better. So that is what we have to remember. And also in the Akash Nyas, if you remember, in the three verses that come from that Usme Ujareshwa towards this thing, Jatushra asks Auramata for certain virtues, certain gifts, and that in return he is saying, Tanvaschit Kakao, I am willing to give up my whole, surrender myself completely. So all these are very deep emotions which are mentioned, and which ultimately, if you really take your prayers as something you live through your prayers, you will go through these emotions and you will emerge much better. That's what I feel.
Right. So there is a verse in the Gathas that Hutokshi ma'am actually referred to, but I think she forgot to say, and that is Yasna 43:1, which relates to also the Ashem Bahu prayer. We say, Ushta amma yamai ushta kammai chit. Now it
Happiness
means
and
the enlightenment that comes from learning, from following Asha, that spiritual bliss, Ushta or happiness, comes to one who gives this Ushta to others. Let us just
yes,
reflect upon that and the Ashem Bahu prayer. And the Ashem Bahu, we say, Ashem Bahu, Vahiste Masti, Ushta Asti. And then it ends with Vahishtai Ashem. So, Asha is good, it is the best. It is Ushta. So, this is what I was trying to explain, Farooq, that when we align our righteousness, our ethics with Ushta,
with
it
Asha,
brings that Ushta
with Asha, that
that
will bring
align,
Ushta.
Ushta, but that Ushta aligns with the Vahishtai Hashem, the Asha of Auramasta, the greatest spiritual Asha. So that's why I think we need to hear more on this. So maybe Sarosh, if you've got some more pushback or some more from your perspective, it might be a good idea to hear from you and then finish with Arvind Sai Parvez. Thank you, Dr. Zaroliwala, for your insight.
I
Very
want to
valuable.
I
Thank
want
you,
to say
Farooq.
something after Sarosh goes.
Thank
want
you,
to
Farooq, of
comment
course.
something that you said, Dr. Zaroliwala. Yes, emotions do play an important part in our lives. That's indisputable. The issue is, in fact, when I was much younger, when people used to talk about meditation, I used to think it's one of these humbug things going around, uh, uh, just people talking, going to those Beatles. In my days, the Beatles were going to the Maharishis and doing meditation, all that. Now I've learned that meditation is important. Why? Because meditation, when you go into meditation, you are removing your emotions from yourself. And then when you make the decision, you're making a decision based on what you then believe is right and wrong, not on your emotions. So to me, that is where meditation, the role of meditation comes off, is to disarm yourself, dissolve emotions from your body, remove them, and then make the right decision. And remember, you have a conscience, Darina. Darina is sitting on your shoulder over here, prompting you. At the same time, Angre Menu is sitting on this shoulder and prompting you. So now you have to make a decision, and that decision can only be made when you are free of emotions and you can only look at the issues righteously and say this is correct and this is wrong. That's my comment. And in fact, I'll just make another thing. Having gone through that process in my career and consciously made a decision and stuck with it, it came back to haunt me. And because the people who were my superiors didn't like to hear that they were wrong, and I stuck to my principles, and it didn't promote my career. But I can go back now and say, look back in time and say, I made the right decision, and I stick by it. Thank you.
So here is my comment. Vispi, Jaru, the doctor lady have all said, yes, there's emotion. I'm not disputing that. And Karishma, you have pointed out that in the Gathas, there's lots of emotion and stuff like that. I'm not arguing that. But what you said was that when you make decisions, they're the Amesha. And so picking up from the Amesha, you have to have a hierarchy. And the hierarchy that comes out is the number of times Vahumana is mentioned in the first Gatha, second Gatha, etc., etc. Now let me pose something to you. This is a question that I'm going to pose. At the Chinward pull, we are told that we decide, or somebody decides, as to whether we go into heaven or hell. Now, supposing I came along and said, oh, my emotion made me do the bad thing. Am I forgiven? No.
No.
Just because I said my emotion did that is not where I go along and say, oh, that justifies the bad action that I did. So, Vispi, certainly you have to talk to people and say, yes, you're emotional, etc., etc. And when you counsel, you do the right sorts of things. And certainly as a neuroscientist, you know all these chemicals are going in people in terms of emotions. And certainly when you read the Gathas and you read all these things, you can say, yes, there's emotion. But what I'm getting at is the essence. You've said when you make a decision, the mind plays the biggest role. The mind is not emotional, it's rational. That is the point I'm making. And the second thing is if you buy into this idea that there is this chinward pull and stuff like that, and there is a soul, then are you going to go and say, hey, guess what? Forgive me for my sins because my emotion took the better of me. Angre Menu at that time, I succumb. Please forgive me. I'm a good person. That doesn't work. That is not logical. That is not ethical. So when you talk about these things to make people feel good, you are in essence telling them, hey, guess what? You have a free pass to go to heaven. I don't buy that. It's illogical.
Okay, lovely. I think actually, to my mind, Farooq, you've made the point that I was trying to make, and that is this. If you come back to what you started with and where you finished, and that is what the Gathas tell me is the concept, for example, of utilizing your good mind to make sure that you are taking the right decisions without letting the negative emotions or negative angramanyu or angramanyate. It's not angramanyu. It's not a personification. It is angramanyate. That mindset or spirit in us that is angra, negative. And you said something that I was trying to say earlier, and that is exactly the purpose of the Gathas, to make sure that our negative emotions and love that is binding, like grehmo, or affection that is binding to something that is immaterial at the higher level, is actually negative. And the Gathas take us from that to this higher state of Vahmeng, or Vahman, or Vahumana. That mindset that is based on Vah, or Vanta, like we say in the Atarshnyas, Vanta Beretimcha, even the sandalwood or whatever we bring from our mind to the fire is from that higher sense of Vanta Bere. So we are carrying beres with Vanta. Some people say that is love, some people say that's devotion, but it is that is the same root, Va, as in Vangeush, Vahuman, Vanta Beretimcha. Now look at what you have said, what Sarosh has said, what Parvez Karanja has tried to say, and what Vispi Karkaria has said quite definitively. And that is, to what I've understood today, is that we need to resonate with a higher purpose. Take our emotions to that state, if at all we are taking emotions to a state, of the higher purpose, where our ethics and our mind regulate us, where we are not driven into chaos by emotions. That is what I see as a synthesis of what we have heard today. So each one of you has contributed something very precious. And I hope people who listen to this will formulate their own understanding of how the timeless messages of Asho Zarathustra Sahib and the Zarathushti Daina apply very, very deep spiritually and in a very purposeful material way to guide our contributions, our Angeush Mazdai, for bringing Mazda into the Angeush, the corporeal world. Final answer to Farooq, if I may. You talked about the Chinvate Peru. There is no translation so far that has an accurate description of Chinvate Peru as a bridge of the separator that happens to exist somewhere. You can apply it to every moment. You can apply it to spirituality. You can apply it to crossing decisions, your Vichiro. So to me, this Chinvate Peru takes us from negative to the land of Garo de Mane, which to me is the heaven on earth every moment, for which we need the bridge that has Sarosh, Mitra, Asha, Rashna, that is justice, covenant, Asha, righteousness, Bahukshatra, power to empower others, Spenta Armaiti, that benevolence of devotion and resolute mind to help others, with Hurvatat, completeness, perfection, so that we can build something that is sustainable, but not just for ourselves, for nature and everyone around us. I think that may be what comes back to your idea of how the Amesha Spentas help us in everyday life.
When Zarathustra says to Avramazda, I devote my entire breath to you.
Ushtanem dadaiti.
Yes.
Paurvatatem. Yes.
Explain that.
So in the Atarshnyas, I think that was Dr. Zaroliwala was trying to say, is that right, Utokshi ma'am?
Yeah.
This is a verse in
By
the
the way,
Atarshnyas.
Kinwat pool is mentioned in detail in the Dadistani Dainik. I think Edward Pervez Karanja would second that. Anyway, we'll do that later in the 4th or 5th year of our stuff. That will.
So if you think about the fact that Zarathustra Sahib has dedicated the very breath of Ushtanem Dadaiti, he gives his very breath. Now think about the breath and emotions, how your breath affects your emotions, your work in this world, and how you can be the Vastarin. You might find your own answer.
I want to
Parvez
add on.
Sahib, if you have any final words, then we'll hand over to Arvad Vispi to do a hambandagi, and then we'll stay on the line if anybody wants to
Small
discuss.
point to add. I just have a small point
Yes,
to
please.
add. Very
Yes,
short.
yes.
To like resonate
Please
with
don't make
Farooq.
it short. Please don't make it short. Make it complete,
but slow,
but brief and slow.
Yeah. To resonate with Farooq, like there is no way that you can do bad deeds and say that emotions drive me. There is no way out of it. Like nobody should agree on that particular point. And secondly, like I'm not sure if it is in our scriptures, but like my grandfather has like studied a lot of religions, and like I'm just getting something from Hinduism over here, not from us. Like Sant is a person who is away from all the emotions, happiness, sadness, joy, everything. And once you get away from emotions, you can make the correct decisions with very clear mindset. But at that stage also, like you should have ground root foundations about who will drive your decisions. But reaching that stage is very, very difficult. And it could be correct that in our like religious studies, we do acknowledge emotions so that the emotions come to a more higher level and we get rid of the negative emotions so that the decisions can be made. But I also acknowledge that to reach the highest stage, yes, decision making will not have emotions coming into them. So I'm acknowledging both the sides, to be honest, and that's the beauty of these discussions.
Thank you, Arvad Sahib Vispi. Emotions are interestingly, just since you brought in Sanatan Dharma, the concept in the Zarthoshi faith is to be a what? A
Warrior.
person who takes good action.
Yes.
A person who takes good action. And when Zarathustra, and also something that I've been taught by one of my teachers, Khojeste Mystery, is that in the Zoroastrian faith, we don't denounce happiness. We don't denounce our pleasures. We do not denounce things. We take them to higher levels. So we don't sit on an iron bed or something like that and just say, you know, I am completely isolated from everything. We live in the real world. So you made a very important point, and we try and be Saushants. Saushant is the person who follows Asha. So coming back to the Amesha Spentas. We'll hand over to you for a Hambandagi. We have Ervat Sahib Parvez ready to share. I hope you don't mind waiting a few minutes, Vispi Sahib, for the Hambandagi, if you're not in a hurry. Parvez Sahib.
Gatha Yasna 28, verse 9. Anaishva Noitaura, Asem Cha Yanois Zanema, Manasya Yat Vahistem, Yoive Yoitema, Dasame Stuta, Yuzem Javistavango, Isok Satremcha Savanga, O Ahura, proudness, graces, may we never irritate you and Asha with our behavior. And besides that, Spenta menu also. We who have associated in the offering of almonds of your praise, you as well as Supreme Exorma are most worthy to be invoked and are possessing various powers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arvat Sahib. Over to Arvat Sahib Vispi, if you'll close the recorded part of our session today. We can all stay on to voice any further thoughts if necessary. Please stay on.
Sure. I would like to invite everybody for a small prayer together. We will keep it simple. We'll do one Yatha video and one Ashem Vahu. So let's begin with Yatha video. Yatha Ahu video, Atha Ratush, Asachit Hacham, Vange Hush Dau Manengo, Shatrenam, Ange Hush Mazdai, Shatrim Chai, Auraya, Aimdri Kobiro, Dadat Varasarem, Ashemvo, Ashemvahu, Vaistamasti, Ushtaasti, Ushtamai, Yat Ashai, Vahistai Ashem. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining. Please realize that everything shared in today's session by each speaker or participant is the speaker or participant's own interpretation based on references they have learnt in their life. Each reference comes with interpretation and meaning based on the person's own language barriers or language interpretations and their own cultural upbringing and their desire to share a certain way. Likewise, each of us is endowed with the spirit of deciding for ourselves, narem narem kakaya, each one individually with your sucha mananga, decide for yourself as you bring together all the knowledge you acquire to build mazda, to build wisdom, so that in your own way, in your own world, you can take action, whether in your professional, social, spiritual, or religious actions, or as leaders of families, because as parents, you are guiding the next generations. And that is a leadership in its own right. We'll stop the recording and please stay on if you have anything further to say or if you've been too shy to be recorded.